I just watched every movie and TV show that features Supergirl, and I had one goal in mind. I want to figure out why I seem to be so excited for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So, James Gunn's Superman is out in the world now, which is crazy to believe, but if you didn't know by now, then allow me to spoil it for you. Supergirl is introduced in this film. See, admittedly, while I was big on some Superman stories and media as a kid, Supergirl is a character that I would consider to be a blind spot. I didn't see the 1984 film until this week doing research for this video, and I had never seen her appearance in the CW show because, well, there was like 100 shows in the Arrowverse and I couldn't watch them all. And other than Sasha Calle's performance as Kara Zor-El in The Flash, I had no exposure to this character in other forms of media. Well, that ends now. From 1984 to 2025, let's take a look at the history of Supergirl on the big and small screen. Supergirl, 1984.
The question remains, just who on earth are you?
On Earth, I'm Lee. Linda Lee.
Helen Slater plays Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, aka Linda Lee. And this is a very long, pretty ridiculous, and kind of hilarious movie. See, knowing nothing about the character before researching for this video, I really had no expectations for what Supergirl should be. As such, her introduction in this film is very stupid, and I kind of enjoyed it for that reason.
I don't believe you.
On a refugee planet called Argo, which hosts the survivors of Krypton in a pocket dimension, Kara is given inexplicable access to the planet's power source known as the Omega Hedron. I think it's called the Omega Hedron. Can I get a name check on that?
An Omega Hedron.
Thank you. Now, the Omega Hedron provides power to the entire planet and its residents, meaning that this is a very important object that they basically just treat like a f***ing dog toy. Naturally, this results in Kara accidentally letting the Omega Hedron fly off into space, and it leads her to get in this very stylish spaceship to chase it down. While in pursuit of the Omega Hedron, Kara finds herself in Earth's orbit and getting power from the yellow sun. Then the Omega Hedron lands on Earth and into a picnic basket that belongs to an evil witch who proves to be the antagonist of this film. By the way though, this movie does take place in the Christopher Reeve Superman universe. There's like a couple of Easter eggs.
And he's gonna get creamed if he's not too careful. Hi, Jimmy Olsen, photographer.
I don't really know how I feel about this movie as a whole, but here's what I learned about the character of Supergirl. This version of the character is definitely in line with Christopher Reeve and his take on Calle. She's hamming it up more and lacks a lot of subtlety that Reeve displayed, but ultimately she's aiming for like a shy and harmless daytime persona and then a more confident persona when she turns into Supergirl. As far as the core of the character, it seems like having her be less masterful and less sharp than her cousin is really at the center of it. Like, I don't see myself watching this movie over Superman 1978 anytime soon, but I do think that if you were to watch the two movies back to back, it would really highlight the core differences between these two characters, which is kind of just the level of skill and maturity. Supergirl still feels a little bit undercooked, where at this point Superman, you know, was Superman.
Also, Helen Slater's hot, right?
Dude, what?
What?
I love you.
Supergirl, 2015 to 2021.
You're her.
Yep.
Okay, maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I just found the Supergirl movie to be incredibly dull, but I kind of loved what they're doing with Supergirl on the CW.
Wow.
Now, Kara did appear in season 7 of Smallville as Kara Zor-El, but I'm not really gonna get into that because her character doesn't have much of an arc other than being like a cold Terminator alien chick. But this show, this is a chewy one for sure. Melissa Benoist, I think that's how you say it. I think it's like Benoist, Benoist.
Hey everyone, I'm Melissa Benoist.
She plays Kara in this one, and off the bat, the character already feels more young, more modern, and just more interesting than the previous iteration. And while I do have to say now that the kind of quick exposition to set up the history of Superman and Supergirl, it's, you know, whatever, it's fine, but it is, like, the corniness is turned all the way up to 11. I mean, oof.
Because of the Earth's yellow sun, you'll have great powers on this planet.
You got the part.
We see that 24 years ago, Kara, who's Clark's older cousin, is sent to Earth behind Clark and is meant to protect him as a baby. During their travels, Clark makes it to Earth while Kara is sucked into a rift and essentially freezes in time for 24 years. When she arrives to Earth a quarter of a century later, she is still a little girl while her cousin is full grown and out to the world as Superman. Now the older cousin who was meant to protect her little cousin becomes the little cousin, and Superman is protecting her. In fact, he even gets her adopted by Helen Slater herself and Dean Cain, who played Superman as well.
The Danvers.
So Kara is adopted by a family of scientists called the Danvers, who know Superman and help Kara hone her abilities. She's not a superhero for most of her life, being raised entirely human.
I decided the best thing I could do is fit in.
When she's in her mid-20s, she's forced to rise to the occasion as National City's vigilante protector, Supergirl. So I watched the entire first season in research for this video, and I gotta say, I might just keep watching it until it's over. I kind of found this first season to be pretty good. The character's personality seems a lot more layered in this series than we had seen it previously. Kara has her whole dorky, awkward daytime persona thing going, with her being an assistant to a media mogul named Cat Grant. Of course, that name should sound familiar to you Superman fans out there. And Kara has the same bleeding heart for the people as her cousin, even slightly standing up to her boss when she feels that innocent people are about to lose their jobs. But she is younger and more cautious than Clark. When she takes her first flight in the middle of a blind date to save a plane from crashing, we see the change in her as she realizes that she was meant to do so much more on this planet than be an assistant to a media mogul. So where Helen Slater Supergirl was a little bit ditzier, more harmless and unassuming, Melissa Benoist's Kara is awkward and messy and knows when to be a badass.
Also, Melissa Benoist, super hot, right?
Dude, The Flash. Now, up until this week, this was the most familiar I had ever been with Supergirl in media. And that's partially because they just took a big piece of Superman's arc in the Flashpoint comics and kind of copy and pasted it over to Kara, who's played in this movie by Sasha Calle. Say what you will about The Flash as a movie, Lord knows I have my problems with it.
For the record, I think this is insane.
But I actually think the MVP of this film is Supergirl. If you're not familiar, in the DC Comics run of Flashpoint, Barry goes back in time to change the outcome of his mother's death, and this creates an alternative future where Thomas Wayne became Batman after his son Bruce is killed by Joe Chill. Martha Wayne becomes the Joker out of anxiety and grief, and Superman becomes a tiny, scrawny, weakling, little emaciated fuck who's no good to anybody because he's been imprisoned away from Earth's yellow sun, which, as we know, is the source of his power. It's then up to Barry to rescue Superman and have him save the day, and that's Flashpoint. In this movie, they do their own versions of most of that stuff.
You want to get nuts?
And instead of Henry Cavill being Superman and giving him a Black Adam frail-bodied CGI treatment, we got Sasha Calle being introduced as this universe's Supergirl. They gave her basically the exact story of Superman in Flashpoint and just applied it to her. Now, in this movie, Supergirl is nothing like we've seen her before. She's like stoic and pissed off and pensive and has absolutely no room for positivity. I'm not saying I blame her if you look at the situation she's in this movie, you know? But it is interesting to see the contrast from Supergirl the TV series because there are no similarities between them. This Supergirl is experienced, she's vicious, she's mostly unfriendly, and she is all the way Woman of Steel.
I'm not a human.
Bro, Sasha Calle though? She's hot, right?
Oh my god. Superman 2025. Finally, folks, the introduction of Milly Alcock as Supergirl in Superman 2025. Now, introducing new characters is something that I would say this movie did extremely well, in that it decided to forego any need for origin stories or background information and just sort of drop you off at the party where everybody there is already friends and thus have no need to give exposition about where they came from. But with Supergirl, it's different in that they did give us a little bit of exposition. It's a brief scene, but she is introduced and here's what goes down. Superman saves the day and he's in his fortress getting ready to rest up after a big battle, and all of a sudden a giant hole blasts through the roof and we see a red and blue blur that turns out to be none other than Kara Zor-El. She appears to still be hammered from the night before, and we get a little bit of exposition from some of the robots who explain that she likes to party on planets with red suns so that she can get drunk. I'm not going to get into the logistics of how she could travel from a red sun planet to a yellow sun planet and still be drunk because to me it doesn't really matter. What I can say from her immediate introduction is, this is exactly what I think this character needs. And it's clear from seeing this one scene and reading that book in conjunction with it that this Supergirl is going to be hiding some big insecurities. We're talking about pain and grief and self-doubt. I mean, she comes from a planet where all of her people have been destroyed, she lost 24 years of her life, and now she's aimlessly wandering from planet to planet looking for purpose. But I think she's going to be hiding all of those insecurities behind walls of booze and rebellious behavior, which is going to make for a very fun movie, and also make for an incredible arc where she can learn to put that stuff behind her and get into heroics instead of antics. I think the tease for this character in the movie made me very excited for what's on deck for 2026's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Don't make me get rough, okay?
You wouldn't stand a chance.
But what I want to know, of course, is what you guys think. Who's been your favorite on-screen Supergirl? Or are you like me and just completely unfamiliar? If that's the case, I might suggest watch the CW show, at least season 1. Call me crazy, I think it's kind of good. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a super day.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.